To the Grubhub, DoorDash, or any other food delivery employees, what is the strangest scenario you have had with an order? By Ask Reddit.
I worked for a delivery company about 6 years ago. I got an order for a single cigar. Total cost of goods about $3. Delivery fee $13.50. He lived way the hell out in the boonies. He also tipped my like $10. Turns out he was drunk and delivery fee is less than a DUI.
Honestly, a baller move and a safe one at that.
Hey, at least he was smart enough not to try risk the Dewey. Edit, spelling.
Agree 100%.
Hey man, say what you wanna say, but he was being responsible.
At least he is common sense drunk.
Lol, good on him.
I appreciate his responsibility and consideration of others in not driving drunk, lol.
Drop-off instructions said, text me when you arrive, and come to the side of the house. I broke my leg and I can't come downstairs, but I'll lower a backpack down to you on a rope. Your tip is in the loop on the back. Thanks. I thought it was a setup, but turned out to be legit. I thought it was amusing. http://imager.com/gallery/iusenet. Thank you for the kind awards, internet strangers. Glad to bring a smile to your face.
That is incredibly creative. That the other person had the integrity to tip you an all-knowing S. He could have made the excuse that a broken leg meant nothing. Doing either way is pretty cool, too.
This was 2018, so well before contactless delivery was the norm and about half my tips were cash. There was a good risk that the dude was not going to tip, but I was glad to see my fears were unfounded. Plus I wasn't super cool with going around to the side of the house late at night, and there are some neighborhoods that I deliver in where this would get a hard pass. But it was a relatively affluent neighborhood, and it all worked out.
I picked up 26 chocolate chip cookies from McDonald's. The manager was pissed.
Why? That's legitimate business. If they don't want people to order them, then they shouldn't sell them.
I think they only prep a few at a time. I never see more than like 6. Probably had to go to the freezer and dig them out during the dinner rush. I had someone order 14 orders of cheese and crackers at my place, and I was so annoyed to go and get the cheese and scoop it into 14 cups and open all the boxes of crackers. Sometimes during a meal rush, poo is way more annoying than it should be.
I worked at a McDonald's less than a year ago, and making cookies was the easiest thing to do there. We have usually about 6 or so cookies out at a time during COVID, and if someone ordered more than we had on hand, we would go make a fresh batch. Literally took 2 minutes to make a batch of cookies. So I have no idea why a manager would be mad.
The DoorDash app offers a 13-cookie tote for like $6.50. So they probably just ordered 2 of those.
The delivery instructions were to beat on the door like you're the cops, and then roar like a T-Rex to scare my kids. I did this, but a small, extremely confused lady answered the door. Apparently the husband had written those instructions for a prior delivery and had not realized delivery instructions copy over to the next delivery if not deleted.
What was the elderly woman's response?
I blurted out, "It said to do that," before she could say anything. Then she laughed.
Then you had sex.
P-hub, write that down.
Writes notes while jerking off.
I am sure it said elderly.
Step-grandson, what are you doing?
Phew, that escalated quickly.
Who said she was elderly?
Haha, I'm not op, but I literally read elderly too, lol. Not sure how I saw that.
I had to scroll back up cause I was like, op specifically said she was elderly. Oops. What the F is going on here? Mandela effect comment in real time.
Combination of small, confused, and lady brain assumes, oh, elderly.
And extremely, which looks kind of similar to elderly, if you just skim through the text.
I think you've actually nailed it. Begins and ends the same, and like others said, elderly pairs well with small and confused, lol.
My mind is effing blown.
I saw the same thing, lol.
What the FCK is going on? I'm sure it said elderly. We live in a simulation.
I also read elderly and had to go back up to notice it didn't.
And I'm lucky if my delivery drivers walk up 1 flight of stairs, lol. You're awesome.
Many years ago I was a driver for Pizza Hut. We had someone place an order, their home address was saved to our system, but in the notes it said to deliver it to a hotel literally down the road from said home address. So I go to the hotel, knock on the door, and a dude answers in his boxers with a girl in bed peeking around to see who was at the door. 99% sure I walked into an affair encounter.
Oh, that happens all the time apparently. I've seen plenty of those types of videos online.
They always get the sausage pizza.
The big one at that.
A fair encounter sounds so classy.
I delivered pizza in a college town about 15 years ago. I took an order in the early afternoon to an apartment building I had never been to before. It had a locked entry and buzzer-style door, which was unusual for the area. It was usually cheap student housing, or the hallways of the apartment buildings were open-air style. It takes a few minutes, but someone finally buzzes the door and lets me in. I walk towards the apartment and see the door is open, and can hear really loud music. I get to the door and I see the TV is on with full volume, and across the room is a radio also full volume. I look to the left and a man is walking out of the kitchen, and I see he is in a hospital gown. His hair is kind of dirty and messed up, and he seems to be completely out of it. I tell him the total and he starts looking around for the money. Yes, the gown was tied in the back, but it did not hold against the constant bending over looking in various areas. At this point, this is already one of the weirdest things to happen to me, but then it kicks it up a notch. The college town I was in is Lawrence, Kansas. And anyone who has lived there, especially near downtown, will probably know of the peace sign guy. This dude looked like your classic Vietnam War vet. Long hair, sunglasses, leather jacket with no shirt, jeans and big boots. He would walk around with a cigarette in his mouth, throwing up the peace sign to anyone and everyone. He was mostly harmless, but he could get upset and lash out verbally at people, although I did not know that at the time. So who should appear at the door behind me, now boxing me into the apartment between him and hospital gown man? Peace sign guy. And he is pissed. He starts yelling about the noise, and he's having to scream pretty loudly just to be heard. Hospital gown man starts yelling right back at him. He still hasn't found the money. I contemplate trying the patio door and running for it. Finally, peace sign guy leaves. Hospital gown man finds the money and proceeds to pull out a massive wad of crisp $20. He tipped pretty well, too.
842-1212.
Bingo.
2 FERS, cream cheese and bacon and cream cheese and pineapple, 2 Mountain Dews. Yalla, why I'm fat. Side note. I guess this might be Lawrence about 1.5 paragraphs in.
2 red ditters 1 cup.
Cream cheese. And pineapples? On a pizza?
I didn't learn about cream cheese till I moved to Kansas. But boy, do I wish I knew about it sooner.
Minus 370. Any more math?
Bro, what the F? I was scrolling through this and caught a glimpse. Lawrence, Kansas. Didn't expect to see that here. Lived there for quite a few years.
Was it Dan Reichert?
Former delivery driver for a Chinese food restaurant. Our restaurant delivered beer. Not sure if that was even legal, but. And there was one lady who would frequently order 2 egg rolls and 2 6-packs of way overpriced Corona. This relatively small lady, however, had loss of mobility in her legs for whatever reason, and I guess it was most efficient for her to drag herself around her apartment, as she usually answered the door from her floor and sometimes retreated to the kitchen to get money for payment using this method. After a while, it became clear that she had a problem and felt morally wrong for me to continue delivering her vice straight to her front door, but she tipped well and my bosses were not turning down her business until one day she made her usual order, and as I arrived, she didn't have the funds for her order. As I was already uncomfortable completing these deliveries for her, I told her I couldn't provide her order without payment, and she dragged herself limp legs behind her down the breezeway of her apartment complex, crying and begging me for the booze. Still haunts me sometimes. ETA, this was 12 years ago.
Wait, was she like army crawling?
It was like an upper body powered swing, scoot that turned into a more defeated army crawl in the end.
That's depressing on multiple levels.
2 levels max. Couldn't see her living on the 3rd floor or above.
Did she eventually just stop calling? What a sad story. It sounds like she needs a wheelchair and other forms of help.
I wouldn't be surprised if she had a wheelchair at some point but sold it for alcohol. Addiction makes you do crazy stuff to get the fix.
I got back into my car and drove off pretty quick, don't remember much else.
My elderly neighbor was disabled, both legs amputated, and he had one of those little scooters. He had a much younger live-in girlfriend. She was probably in her 40s or 50s, he was in his 70s or 80s, that was a severe alcoholic. She asked one of the other neighbors for a ride to McDonald's to get food for her boyfriend. So the neighbor drove her, and she proceeded to attempt to jump from the moving vehicle every time they passed a bar. Eventually, she started riding his motorized scooter to the bars. She also always called my mom Holly. My mother's name is not Holly, that was our dog's name.
Geez, how'd she end up in that relationship? And why wouldn't she just walk to the bar if she's that desperate?
The closest bar is a good few miles away. I'm not sure how they met, but I kinda felt bad for my neighbor. He was a nice guy, and his wife had died some years before, and couldn't really leave his house, so he was very lonely. The cops came a few times because Crazy Kathy had hit him with his own cane. He refused to press charges. Cycle repeats. He died probably 10 or so years ago. I don't know where she is or if she's still alive. My mom knew her brother and he had let her live with him under the condition she stopped drinking. She didn't. He had to kick her out.
Once I was driving and saw a woman crossing the street in a wheelchair. She was stuck and couldn't get up on the sidewalk. I stopped immediately and went to help her. As I got close, I realized she was only using one arm because the other was firmly holding on to a six-pack. I ended up pushing her all the way home.
This sounds like something from a horror movie, but at the same time makes me feel really sad.
I got sent to KFC to pick up a DoorDash order and the restaurant just wasn't open. No lights, no cars, nothing. I had to call the poor soul who ordered it and tell him that he wasn't getting any KFC tonight.
Amazing, most services seem to say places are closed hours before they are actually closed.
KFC is pretty terrible with the online ordering. We did one order, my husband went to pick it up at the designated time. They claimed they didn't have the order, refused to look at the confirmation, and convinced him to put in and pay for a second order and changed it to charge $2 more. My husband is a pushover. When I called to demand a refund for the duplicate order, they said they couldn't. I demanded a manager and they said he wasn't there. They claimed they called him and he said he couldn't do anything. I demanded the compare number. I called repeatedly for the next week with no answer, no call back, so we disputed the credit card charge and I'm boycotting them.
There's a KFC maybe 10 minutes down the road. My family had stopped there many times and had pretty good service. One time we decided to get it delivered for lunch. We delivered online through the store rather than a food delivery service, and before ordering even called the store to make sure they were available to deliver, which they said yes. After ordering, we got a confirmation from the store saying our food would arrive in 30 to 45 minutes. Well, our food didn't arrive for 6 hours. We called every hour, and kept being told various stories from "it's on its way" to "they don't have a driver," and even "it got cold so we're remaking it." Every time we called we asked to cancel the order and get a refund, but they refused and we had no luck doing so online. It finally arrived around dinner time and, surprise, it's cold and soggy. Haven't ordered from there since and won't ever again.
I had something kind of similar with a local Indian restaurant, but I was able to get a refund. I used Grubhub to order dinner and my husband went to pick it up. They did have the order ready to go, but charged my husband for it despite the fact I'd paid online already. I called Grubhub and the woman who rooked my call really went above and beyond for me. She called the restaurant while I was on hold, told him to refund me, and then she said she would also refund the Grubhub transaction so the food was free. Happy crying face. She said I worked hard for my money and she wasn't gonna sit around and watch someone steal from me. It would have been the perfect end to the night if the goat dansak my husband ordered hadn't liquefied the contents of his intestines a few hours later. My chicken vindaloo was pretty bomb, though.
Popeyes is better anyways.
Popeye's chicken is the poo.
I'm thoroughly convinced they put crack on their biscuits.
It's all the Louisiana love, baby.
There's only one Popeyes within like 25 miles of me, and the drive-thru is always so backed up it causes major traffic delays on the road it's on. Their chicken sandwiches are the best, bar none.
That's because sometimes Grubhub takes an hour to send a driver to grab the order. They take orders even when they know no drivers are available in an area.
I got sent to a non-existent Arby's. I called and nothing. Was weird.
Sir, this is not an Arby's.
I work for one of these companies and this happens all the time.
T-Bell and McDonald's employees near me will turn all the lights off, outside and inside, during open hours so nobody comes. It could be like 8 p.m. Saturday. Even the drive-through screen is off, but if you wait 30 to 60 seconds at McDonald's they will eventually say, "McDonald's, what you want?" At T-Bell they don't even do that, they just wrap up whenever they feel like it. My buddy's cousin works there and tells him they smoke blunts inside with the manager.
I remember I ordered from a Burger King once and it showed which restaurant it was at, and then I realized, hey, that BK is closed now, so I cancelled it and ordered somewhere else. Weird how it still appeared on the app though.
This is one of my favorite random interactions from my time as a delivery driver for a Japanese restaurant. I was sent to this house with an order of a steak hibachi and a couple of sushi rolls that added up to something like $19.60. I like to call before I got to a place, just to give people a bit of a heads up, so by the time I got to the door it was already open. In the doorway stood a chubby kid, about 9 or 10 years old, that reminded me a lot of the kid from Bad Santa, but without the curly hair. I tell him the total as I pass off his food. He hands me a $20 bill and with a straight face he smugly says, "Keep the change, pal." Immediately after, he closes the door and I stood there for a second trying to process what just happened. When I got back to my car I noticed the time and realized it was way too early for that kid to be home from school. I couldn't help but laugh at the whole situation. I wasn't even mad at getting a 40-cent tip because this kid probably faked being sick so he could stay from school and was probably in there watching TV or playing video games while eating sushi and feeling like a big shot. I know I would have at that age.
That's hilarious. Kid sounds like Kevin McAllister.
Yeah, filthy animal.
Op clearly unwittingly became a tertiary character in a Home Alone spin-off.
At least Op got a better tip than a piece of gum.
I used to deliver pizzas, and had almost the same situation. Order was just over $20, kid opens the door, hands me $40, then shuts the door in my face. I stood on the porch for a minute, then thanked the gods of luck and went on with my day. Wasn't even my best tip, but was one of the more memorable.
I literally used to do this. Fake sick, stay home, borrow my parents' change from the big jar in their room and order a pizza, haha. The driver one time made me count all the nickels with him, he was not happy, haha.
OMG yes. I used to do this all the time. Thankfully my mum had rolled quarters though, lol.
You met Eric Cartman. Nice.
I really feel like Cartman would never tip.
Oh, this reminds me of the only time my siblings and I ordered delivery pizza. My mom's an amazing cook so we rarely ate out and we kids honestly didn't know about tipping. You can see where this is going. So we're all 11 and younger, our babysitter doesn't speak English, and we're hungry. We sneak the cordless phone and pizza advertisement into our room. The price is slightly more than on the ad. So we're running around scrounging the extra cents. Delivery boy comes around to a door full of kids who hand him a bunch of dollar bills and cents, exact amount, slam the door, and run off with our forbidden treasure. A few years later, I saw my parents tip and was like, oh oops.
In the doorway stood a chubby kid, about 9 or 10 years old, that reminded me a lot of the kid from Bad Santa, but without the curly hair, Thurman Merman. Sorry, haven't seen anyone else reference that movie before, but I remember watching it when I was in college and that kid cracked me the F up.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day. So be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.